なアルトマイクみたいになりたい。でも電話してくれない。オークランドとブックレンドから世界チャンピオンバーチャルプローズ始まるよ。バーチャルプローズ。
To my motherfucking man, 50 grand, the alcoholic man, and jack a tall can in his bloodstream if he can. Biggie Smalls, the stroker, MC provoker, chocolate tie smoker, huh? I like to max and Maximas and Acuras. Your girl butt cheeks, I'm smacking, huh? The raw rapper, spine snapper, with the little, cause all my lap a shot, the ball, I ain't your fucking comforter. And if I ever fall in love, I bet I'm fucking her. Ask the if I didn't choke her. If she try to front, then I drop the chunky book.
Episode 86 of That World Champion Sound Virtual Pros Podcast. My name is Al, a.k.a. Henny Omega, a.k.a. The Bandman, a.k.a. Bougie Nagata, a.k.a. Dr. Keith Drapinski, a.k.a. Two-Phone Scorpio, a.k.a. Super Brazy, a.k.a. Pete Gas Break Dip Dip, a.k.a. No Speak Broke Boy, Kami Shinsuke, Stack a Mill Up. And with me, one half of the Holy Scheming Army, one half of Blemolition, one half of the Heavenly Thotties, one half of the Bread Hunters, my main oos, Mike.
Hey, what's up, motherfuckers? It's Mike, a.k.a. Wavy Boy Smith, a.k.a. Nick Glockwinkle, a.k.a. Sticky Fuji, a.k.a. Steel Gold Steam Odin.
Today's topic, the Super Shame Cup, 4th stage. Who will emerge as the most shameful pro wrestling fan of 2019? Hit us on Twitter and Instagram at VRTL Pros. Hit us on SoundCloud. Hit that heart. You know I like it. Hit us on iTunes and leave us a 5-star review if you haven't already. And hit us on Spotify if you want to participate. Email us at virtualpros64@gmail.com. Mike, we got some emails. You want to start off with that first one?
Sure. We only have a handful of emails this week, but they're all very lengthy. Yeah. Tim is the first one. It's very lengthy. Honk honk. So I don't know. I might skim this because it's gonna go on. But it's titled Mania Weekend Fan Hall of Fame and Shame. Hey guys, here's my 6th entrance into the Mania Weekend Fan Hall of Fame and Hall of Shame, plus what we can all learn about them. Hall of Shame bronze. What the fuck to the dude at WXW who I saw in the bathroom not wash his hands, then right after walking out, I saw him shaking Dave Meltzer's hand. If you're gonna be a gross shithead, don't touch people. Oh. I agree. Silver medalist, a fuck you to the dudes in front of me at MLW Battle Riot taunting Simon Gotch with Enzo Chance to get some shoot heat or whatever. Nobody cares about your shoot knowledge and it's bullshit heat that isn't fun for a normal fan. Gold medalist, a huge fuck you to the dude at MSG who harassed and yelled slurs at 3 women in my row during the entire Naito Ibushi match. Later that night, I saw the same dude getting thrown out of spring break venue by security because he was completely fucked up and belligerent. Don't be that drunk and don't be that dude. If you're going to be that dude, do it during the Bully Ray bullshit so I don't care what I missed when I have to flag down security.
Fucking wealth, dude. Fucking wealth. How dare you?
I forgot to mention on my WrestleMania recap, I got caught smoking weed in that building like I was a teen or something. I was vaping weed though, so it wasn't like really smoking weed, but either way, it's been a very long time because I am an adult. It's been a very long time since I've been caught smoking weed. So it was just kind of like, I forgot this is like a scenario that could happen. So that was weird. Anyways, Hall of Fame bronze medalist. Shout out to these dudes at MSG. Didn't know who Oedo Tai were in the dark match, but instead of ignoring the match and talking about podcasts and dirt sheets like a bunch of other dorks at the show, they asked me who the women were, decided they liked Kagetsu, and cheered for her like mad. Give wrestlers you don't know a chance to impress you. Don't just be a dick and ignore them. Silver medalist, the German fans of WXW kicked ass. First of all, they're slamming Heinekens on the street waiting to get in, which is illegal in New York, but that's one of those cool crimes. Then they had loads of fun German chants and heckled the bad guys relentlessly. They made some matches with boring dudes entertaining to watch. Great crowds and makes match better. Gold medalist. My hero of the weekend is the dude who brought the toilet from Mao at the DDT show. There's always a million ways to convince yourself not to buy that special piece of merch, but this dude bought a toilet that Mao got DDT'd into and then did graffiti on. Later I heard from a buddy that the toilet buyer was wondering how to get the toilet back to Michigan. This is the kind of spirit we all should have. Buy that cool merch now and figure it out later. I'm just going to end it there. It goes on for a little while. Hold on. Ooh, I gotta sneeze. Oh,
Bless you, man.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. That was from Tib. I don't really have much to add to that because WrestleMania seems like a decade ago now. But all those people sound deplorable.
I have one thing to ask you, Mike.
Yeah.
Have you ever bothered to watch the Simon Gotch shoot interview about his interactions with Enzo? Because I feel like there's some weird algorithm where it will show up for every single wrestling fan in the world.
That is true. It showed. I was going to say I've seen it because it always shows up in my recommends, even though I have watched it, and it still just shows up all the time. It's just it's just planted in there forever because people, I guess the people who invent algorithms think everyone needs to know how Simon Gotch feels about Enzo.
Whoever, I don't even know, whatever like hashtags or descriptions you had put in that video, you're a mastermind, dude, because I think everyone's seen it, and I don't think they've wanted to see it. Next up is from John, WrestleMania Takes. Hey guys, I just wanted to fill in a couple of WrestleMania weekend moments that Mike missed because I know he forgets stuff. First, the Phil Baroni experience. He fought Dom Guarini at Bloodsport, and the first thing he yelled when he came into the ring was, steroids. Then he proceeded to not leave the White Eagle Hall for a rumored 2 days. He was so hammered after Bloodsport and for the rest of the shows on Thursday. Rumor was he slept at the venue Thursday, was there again on Friday throughout the day and night throughout the Midnight Blackcraft show. I saw Mike at the OC show Saturday at noon. And finally, Phil was tossed from the venue. Second, the debacle of the Blackcraft show. Not to flex, but I was the ring announcer for 18% of the shows at White Eagle, and I can tell you they wanted stuff to run as close to on time as possible. The Blackcraft show started about 30 minutes late, so they must have had to cut 30 minutes off the show. At this point in the weekend, White Eagle smelled like ass, armpit, and weed, so it was torture to be in that building. As we stood waiting in line, we all watched some Twizzy dude practice getting hung on a cross. Holy shit. And that was seemingly the only reason we were waiting. The show finally starts with a 30-minute monologue by Pinhead. Twizzy guy was legit crucified. Then it followed by the most advertised match, G Raver versus Jimmy Havoc, being changed to G Raver versus Schlack. And finally, the chain and hook match, having hooks that were 90% gone by the first 2 minutes and were tiny hangers and not hooks. At this point, I bailed. Show went to about 2:30 in the morning with one match going on more than a few minutes. Finally, the GCW ring crew deserves their propers. They not only were around every White Eagle show, but they traveled to other shows to do security/ring crew. My personal MVPs of the weekend, Dom Guarini, Eric Cannon, Orange Cassidy, The God, and Bryce Remsburg. Sorry it was so long. John, aka John. Did you meet John? I met John before.
Yeah.
That guy hit you in the face with a chair, right?
Yeah,
At
he hit me
Onita?
in the face with a chair. That is
Motherfucker,
true.
John.
Yeah, I saw him briefly at AIW for like a half second, then I got to talk to him a little more at the Orange Cassidy show.
Did he apologize for hitting you in the face with a chair?
No.
What a fucker.
That is one thing I did leave out of my long WrestleMania recap because it was so long, but that Blackcraft show, people are talking about it. I didn't go. It was like a game time decision for us, and it was cold and rainy outside, so we decided to just stay home like old men. But, yeah, that Blackcraft show, if you guys haven't seen it, it's definitely worth the $9.99 or whatever it costs to rent it or have your friend give it to you or something, because it is a disaster, and it's pretty fun to watch. Next email is from Seagulls.
What up, Seagulls?
It's overused in 2019. Hey, Mike and Al, what are some current trends in wrestling matches you'd love to see fall by the wayside? I feel like every New Japan show these days has multiple instances of the thing where both guys get back in the ring at 19, narrowly avoiding a count out in the process. Love, Seagulls, aka TL Yopper, Promethazine Dream, Klonopin McDab. I will agree they use that getting back in the ring at 19 thing a lot, but it still impresses me every single time. Every single time, I'm like, this is it. He's going to get counted out, and they do it. They have really good timing. I'm still always impressed by it. For me, though, it's pretty much everything WWE does on a weekly basis on Raw. Like, have the tag team champions lose every match. That's stupid. Have a setup of a fatal four-way where one guy starts talking and another guy comes out and another guy comes out and another guy comes out. Just all that corny shit they've been doing for like 10 years now is like I know Raw is made to sell advertising. That's like their goal. So, and it's kind of like a soap opera where people make soap operas know they aren't high art. So I'm sure WWE's main concern isn't that we do the tag team thing every week. But I wish they would stop. I wish somebody would be like, okay, maybe we should lay off this for a little while so it becomes fresh again, because it aggravates me to no end.
Moves wise, man, Tower of Doom, hate it, shit sucks. Please stop doing it. It's like analogous to like watching like dominoes fall or something. Like I get that you're doing so many moves at once, but man, it never really, impresses me at all personally. Next up is from Emily.
There's somebody singing in my courtyard right now. So if you hear that, it's because the window is open, a little crack. And
I heard it too. And before this started recording, like my upstairs neighbor, they were getting some long strokes. And so I was hoping that they fucking stop having sex before we started recording. Sure enough that they did. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I'll close the window at the break. But that was weird. It kind of scared me. I'm not going to lie. It scared me a little.
Next up, Emily Pratt. What's up? Titled Gaijin Stardom Fan. Oh boy. Hi, Mike and Al. As you know, the official Stardom account tweeted about a foreign fan causing problems at one of their shows. I'm guessing you also saw that guy doubling down on everything and being an idiot. This is the perfect storm of all Virtual Pros topics, with shameful fan behavior, a male wrestling fan being a weirdo about female wrestlers, and a lot of people being weird about Japan. Please give us your expert takes on the situation. You're probably going to already, and I didn't need to ask. Thanks, Emily, aka Open the Cream Gate Champion, aka Bust Down Takayama, Bust Down, aka DDT Yeet Wrestling. Yeah, man, I did see that. It kind of had Twitter aflame, I think, at least for a day. I mean, for me, it made me feel better because when I went to Stardom, I was like the model fan. I was quiet. I was buying my merch, not bothering anybody. And I was just wondering how Kairi Hojo could be so fine. This other guy, not so much, man. I saw some clips and it was pretty rough, man. He was trying to start like, let's go, Tam Nakano. And like, it's one thing to start like American chants at like a Japanese wrestling venue, but like it's another thing to be completely offbeat. So all in all, kind of a disaster.
Yeah, so I have a lot of thoughts about this. Of course I do. So I woke up in the morning yesterday when the incident happened, and there was a lot of people on Twitter complaining about it. So I expected the worst because I saw this dude's Twitter. He's a dude who writes every word in a capital letter, which is psychotic. And it's like he also had pictures of all like the ladies, and there was a lot of them. So it means he dropped a lot of coin to take pictures of these ladies, and he blurred out their bodies because of their religion, or held the Israeli flag in front of them. So I was like, oh man, this is gonna be something.
Well, sorry to interrupt, but his point was like, chanting wasn't bad because he got all those photos for free.
Oh.
Yeah.
So maybe he didn't drop so much money on them. But yeah, so I turned it on. It's the Cinderella tournament. And I watch it, and basically every single match he tries to do like a da 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 go go go. He does like some kind of like go go go, some real basic 1950s kind of like football game chant, and it doesn't like it never catches on. It's just like very awkward. And if I didn't have any context, I would have just been like, that guy's probably like slow or not completely with it. But it's awkward, and it's amazing how tone deaf he is, where he doesn't get the hint that not to do this, because he does it in every single match basically. And to be fair, there's a couple matches where they seem like Hana Kimura seems to be into it, and maybe like another wrestler, but overall people are not into this. But I was expecting it to be like, like bullshit chants and like show your boobs chants and stuff like that. But it's just like some real tone deaf idiot kid doing like football chants, and it's just awkward. But man, if I got to choose between him and the multiple people I see at wrestling that for whatever reason decide to stand even though they're sitting in the front row, just like blocking people's views, and they're like so self-centered they don't even understand they're doing something bad, I'd execute those people every single time over this dude. And so I didn't see it was, it's an incident, and obviously people didn't like it, and it was awkward. But there's like people on Twitter acting like they're going to give this dude some street justice. And it's like, you're not going to do shit, man. Like, did this really ruin the sanctity of the sexy wrestling for you? Can you not masturbate to it anymore? Like, I don't know it's not that bad. I alluded to on Twitter as people throwing around American English speaking people throwing around the term gaijin, which is, the biggest insult you can give another another foreign person that's watching Japanese wrestling, I guess. But it was just kind of like that soured me on it, where I think a lot of people were overreacting on Twitter, and it's Twitter, so of course half of them probably didn't even watch it and probably did think like me that it was the worst, and he was doing like show your tits chants and stuff like that. And then there's people that watched that just like wanted to blow it out of proportion. But I would say there's 50,000 different kinds of fans that go to every single American independent wrestling show and WWE show that are 10 times worse than this dude. So it sucks and all, and it's kind of awkward, but it wasn't really that bad.
Yeah, the next one.
The last email is from
Nick. It's a good one.
Sniff Talk. Sup, Al and Mike. Recently, you guys used your platform to expose Lars Sullivan for smelling like a loud pack of bologna. So I'm gonna take that as my opening for some real sniff talk. Do y'all got any other stories of signature scents, good or bad? At the risk of sounding wild racist, I found that most luchadors coat themselves in essential oil before they wrestle. I can report that Pentagon and Phoenix smell like a whole shit ton of cinnamon, while young Humberto Carrillo seems to prefer spearmint. On the other end of the spectrum, a prominent member of Ring of Honor's tag division had some big boy funk that smelled like the Walmart bag with your used swim trunks from middle school PE. I know Rich Mike always has pretty good seats, and my man Al was for sure with its spelling distance at the Tokyo Dome, so I figured you guys might make some sniff scoops, or might have some sniff scoops. If not, then feel free to speculate. Like, I've never been near him, but I know Bray Wyatt smells like death. Also, that Velveteen Dream shirt I emailed in about 3 or 4 episodes ago just has a natural, fresh laundry smell. You know the guy at your job who never wears cologne but is always fresh out of the shower, clean, so you just know he fucks? Velveteen Dream is that guy. Nick, a.k.a. Jungle Boy West Coast, a.k.a. Hope I don't go back to slanging Hope I don't go back to slanging Yano, a.k.a. I'm in the building and I'm feeling my wealth.
Incredible.
No, I don't really have any sniff stories, unfortunately. I mean, I try. I try to get some sniffs in there. I do have that Headhunters ring-worn shirt, and it smells like a shower, basically. Huh. Like, it smells like somebody that just put on deodorant and took a shower. So, it doesn't smell disgusting, which was my biggest fear. But, yeah, I've never smelled anybody, for better or for worse, I guess.
I would imagine Matt Riddle smells like Abercrombie. That's like what that guy strikes me as smelling like. I can't explain why. Probably because he's a jock, but I'm guessing he smells like the Abercrombie and Fitch store. Anyway, that was the last email. If you want to participate, email us at virtualpros64@gmail.com. The world famous 6-man scramble is about to start. Got some topics. So I still don't have a shirt for Mike to wear for Merchamania. With that said, I would like for him to open it up to coincide with the release of episode 87. So if you have any suggestions, please email me at virtualpros64@gmail.com. I'd be glad to solicitations for sure. Second up, Dean Ambrose, a.k.a. John Moxley, I guess he dropped a trailer last night for his return to, I'm assuming, independent wrestling. If he teases an electric carving knife in a follow-up trailer, are you going to drop everything to attend whatever show he shows up at?
This is one of my topics, too, and I am indeed going to GCW this weekend. And, who knows if he shows up there. They have 2 shows this weekend, and I feel like the Chicago show would probably be the least likely one he would show up at, but hey, I got my fingers crossed that he's going to go in there with some scissor boards and start fucking people up.
Yeah, that trailer was like, okay, I don't know, him busting out of jail. I don't know, didn't do a lot for me, but if I see some fucking knife play, I'll be really into it.
It's pretty wild that he never used Twitter before, and he used it finally when he got released to make a a movie trailer worthy video of him breaking out of prison, as if maybe that's a metaphor for something. And I'm just hoping he's the first millionaire to go back to deathmatch wrestling, because that would have to be the case. I don't think there's any other millionaires that were like, I guess David Arquette, he might be a millionaire.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that's true.
But he never started in deathmatch wrestling. But either way, it's him and David Arquette. So naturally, they're gonna have to fight at some point.
That'd be sick. I want to see some fucking pizza slicers again. So, my next topic. So, this is the episode, the Super Shame Cup, where we get the most listens by far. So, presumably, we have some new listeners. If there's one PSA you want to drop right now about Virtual Pros before we get the show on the road, what would you give out?
Just, it's all in good fun, guys. It's a fucking entertainment podcast. A lot of you take wrestling way too seriously. You need to dial it down a notch because it's pretend fighting, mostly aimed at children. And we have to all agree that we have a shameful hobby. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you just gotta relax and realize it's entertainment sometimes, and not everything needs to be serious.
I have two. So if you follow our Instagram and you see me post merchandise and it's not explicitly stated that's for sale, please don't ask. I'm a pretty petty person. And, I will always remember that you did that. Secondly, though, same wave. The inside joke about Virtual Pros, I feel like, it's not very inside, is that Mike and I are huge dorks. We talk about wrestling all the fucking time. We're in our mid-30s, 1 foot in the grave. And if you feel yourself, getting, a bead of sweat on your forehead, or if you feel yourself clenching your fist, I don't know, my favorite thing is, water some plants, vacuum, make my bed. It's all in good fun. So, if you're, listening to the next segment and you're getting tight about it, you can just turn it off. You can just ignore it. But at the end of the day, just know that we know that we're huge dorks, and it's all jokes. Trust me. I assure you, we all know. Last up. So you and I, Mike, we're pretty ardent fans of the Wrestling Observer radio program, correct?
Yep.
So if it's ever discovered that the king of Silicon Valley was actually on the payroll of AEW, for example, what would be your first reaction?
I don't think I would care that much. I don't really think he is on the payroll. I do think Dave Meltzer is too much of a valiant person to ever do that. Okay, this is where we can get into people being a little too serious about wrestling. People are really serious about wrestling journalism. This should be like the news. They should be like Walter Cronkite and shit. But it's just dudes talking about entertainment, and they're like, you gotta report the news. And they get super serious. That's not the news. Where's your sources? And it's damn, dude. They're just talking about just backstage scoops. I didn't know until lately that people get that serious about wrestling journalism. So if he was on the payroll, I'd just be I guess. I don't know why they'd be paying him. I don't think he has the finger on the pulse of independent wrestling more than a lot of other people do right now. But, I wouldn't really care that much. That's for sure.
Same answer. I wouldn't give a shit, man. I treat my subscription like how fucking housewives treat the National Enquirer. It's just a way to pass the time. His radio show, to me, he drops 2 episodes, 3 episodes a week.
Yeah.
For $12 a month, to me, it's great value. He'll drop gems about him and Wally Yamaguchi, rest in peace, that are pretty interesting to listen to. But him shuffling through notes makes me laugh every single fucking time. So if it's ever discovered that he was on the payroll, if he wasn't a real journalist, quote unquote, man, I would still sleep pretty easy at night. It's pretty crazy that people really hold Dave Meltzer's feet to the fire about essentially a fantasy, an industry where deception is key to profiting.
Yeah, it seems a few months ago when he seemed to do a 17-part series on John Jones's drug tests. And it seems like people actually enjoy that. And that's the part of the show where I'm Jesus Christ, can this end any quicker? I do not care about actual human real life news. I don't care about this man's drug test, and I don't know who can, but apparently there's a lot of people out there that want real hard hitting journalism in their entertainment. So
that was my last topic.
Okay, I got a few since that John Moxley one has been spoiled. First one, this week, within the last few days, there's been a couple pretty interesting, unexpected Twitter beefs in the wrestling world. One was Spider Nate Webb going after one Gabe Sapolsky, and these are two people that you don't see. I didn't even know Spider Nate Webb had fucking Twitter, for one. So these are not two people you expect to engage in Twitter beef, because there's a lot of wrestlers out there you expect to like talk back and shit like that, and just say a lot of crazy stuff on their Twitter. But these two are not the ones, so that was cool. And then today, Facade, who is an independent wrestler, got into it with AIW, and I'm just here to say I am all for this. I want to see more Twitter beefs with wrestling personalities from unexpected places. I wanted to think of some examples before I did this segment, but I don't really have any. But I just want to see like the most random wrestling Twitter people or industry people just really going at each other. I love it.
Joey Janela Enzo was pretty sick. They were like, for real, let's fight.
Yeah.
But nothing's topping Ryback versus Brian Alvarez.
Oh, yeah.
Ryback fucking came at Brian Alvarez, and then Brian Alvarez fucking changed that profile photo to him in a fucking karate gi, and it was fucking crickets for Ryback. He didn't want that smoke with fucking Brian Alvarez. That was, I don't know, that can't be topped personally. That was pretty incredible in my opinion.
Next thing is that, by the time you hear this, let's just say the week of, May 10th. So Friday, May 10th. By Friday, May 10th, I will have been on a new episode of Junk Food Dinner. You could find them wherever you find podcasts, Junk Food Dinner, iTunes, whatever. I am only mentioning this. It's usually a cult movie review podcast, but for this next episode, we'll be talking about one of my all-time favorite wrestling tapes and one of my all-time favorite entertainment tapes of all time, Stranglemania. And I am honored to be on something where I get to just talk about Stranglemania for an hour or something. So please tune in to that episode of Junk Food Dinner if you are also close to the Stranglemania tape.
I've never seen it.
Man, it's on YouTube, man. I mean, you've seen King of the Deathmatch. It's the same thing except with brilliant commentary. Last thing, a listener and friend of the show, Stash Pages, recommended we do some kind of preliminary Shame Cup match, just like they did in the second Super J Cup. And he suggested feet people. Yeah. So, aka people who are like, show me them feet to like every single wrestler, which is kind of gross, but whatever. Some people are into that, I guess.
Put your feet on the phone.
Yeah. And I was one of mine that was on the chopping block where Twitter snitches, people who see you talking about a wrestler and have to reply and tag that wrestler in the tweet, which is very rude. And even if you don't have a problem with being a snitch, maybe that wrestler doesn't want to see that shit because that wrestler just wants to go about their day and not have to check on every single person talking shit on them because maybe they have a fragile ego and they don't want to fucking hear it. And that's why they don't get tagged and stuff like that. But either way, out of this battle, this preliminary battle, Al, who do you find worse, feet people or Twitter snitches?
Man, feet people just trying to live, man. Twitter snitching, dude. That's fucking Fed behavior.
I do agree. I have Twitter snitches and maybe an upset for some, but feet people, it's just a weird sexual fetish. I do not condone requesting to see every wrestler's feet, though. That is kind of weird behavior. There's probably some websites where women are probably more than generous enough with their feet. So leave the women wrestlers alone. And, but also don't snitch on Twitter because it's weird. It's weird.
I gotta find that cartoon of Bailey. It's like that, it's like drawn in that perspective where it's just like her toes are at the in front of the camera. It's like a fisheye almost. Yep. It's crazy. It's nuts.
That's it.
Oh shit. Fourth stage, Super Shame Cup. Who will emerge as the most shameful pro wrestling fan of 2019? Please stay tuned.
Okay, we are back here on Virtual Pros, episode 86. The big time 4th annual Super Shame Cup. This is the time where we decide the worst kind of cross-section subculture of wrestling fan. There's a lot of bad habits out there, and we try to capture the worst here. This is the first time we are opening the voting to the public. So how this is going to work is that we are going to go over all 16 entrants, all 8 matchups. And then Monday, after you hear this drops late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. We're going to give people a few days. Monday, the 6th. Monday the 6th, I will start putting up the opening round matchups on our Twitter as a Twitter poll. And you can just find that at VRTL Pros. You can go there and vote for who you want to win each matchup. And the polls will continue until the following Wednesday when we record the next episode. And by then, we will have a winner of the Shame Cup, and then we'll have like a post-show analysis on episode 87. So yeah, we're just going to go over each matchup. I'm sure you can find the bracket on our Twitter or Instagram, so you don't have to search far. And so you can follow along at home if you want. So we're just going to go over each matchup, describe the entrant in a little more detail than a little Twitter blurb, and just go over who we think is going to win. So the first matchup, and these were all decided by random. I just put these all in randomizer. There's no seeds in this. So the first matchup is Thirst Responders versus Fake Celebrity Fans. Thirst Responders, and somebody tried to challenge me on this on Twitter, and it's like, dude, come on. But Thirst Responders are dudes who may go as far as creating up a Twitter account solely to bother women wrestlers and just like comment on every single thing they say, wish them happy birthday, even though they're not personal friends. Ask them how they're doing, and just, commenting on how pretty they are. Just real stalker shit that it's borderline kind of like you should be able to call the cops on people who do this stuff. And I can't imagine being the wrestler that has to deal with this for, like, hundreds of thousands of people doing this. It must be insane. And fake celebrity fans are people like the Brock Lesnar guy, people like Frank the Clown, people who basically set out to say, hey, I'm going to get a front row ticket to wrestling, or just like a very good seat to wrestling, and I'm going to wear a costume, or I'm going to do something weird. I'm going to hold up a funny sign every time, or something like that. Just people who really think they're going to become some kind of celebrity by being a fan. And, the Brock Lesnar guy famously in his Twitter had just trying to figure out my place in this business in his Twitter bio, and it's like, your place in the business is just being a dude in the crowd, man. I don't know what you're expecting. So out of these two, it's a tough one. I would personally, I'm going to go with the Thirst Responders on this one. This is a tough matchup, but I think in my heart, I would go with Thirst Responders. But what about you, Al?
I'm on the same wave, and I'm like looking at this from the perspective of what if my employer finds out? So with fake celeb fans, I guess there's a chance that you could be beloved, like Vladimir or Ringside Charlie. That's a possibility. Maybe.
Or Simon, the long-haired guy. He's cool.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
If my employer saw me in the comments of Kairi Sane's Instagram being like, that's a great looking sandwich, I don't know, man. I probably couldn't go back to work afterwards. Like, I'm leaving that comment in hopes that we're going to make out, but like that doesn't happen. So yeah, it did sound kind of tough initially, but yeah, I think Thirst Responders takes this. The next matchup, you just want to alternate, or?
Yeah, you can alternate.
That's cool. Next matchup is used gear buyers versus Twitter reply beggars. Used gear buyers, a definite favorite in the Shame Cup, a powerhouse, as you would say. Self-explanatory. It's people that buy pretty much underwear from wrestlers. Used tops. Whose underwear? Oh, it was like Bobby Eaton's underwear that was on sale one time.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, where are you storing that? Are you displaying it? It's just weird, right?
Yeah.
Versus Twitter reply beggars. These are people that will tag Kenny Omega and Nick Jackson, letting them know that they're about to go on an interview and that they need that too sweet to get really pumped up about their interview. And that's pretty sad.
And then get upset about it after they don't reply to that.
Yeah, so like after 3 hours, they melt down and like they're just burning all of their Bullet Club t-shirts because they didn't get that too sweet emoji. Damn, I feel like if you need the cosign on Twitter from a wrestler to like exist, you're in a pretty dark place. However, if I had to store Bobby Eaton's underwear somewhere, that's kind of a tough sell too. I'm gonna go used gear buyers. It's a powerhouse. I'm gonna respect the powerhouse nature of it, so I think I have that advancing.
Yeah, so when I was putting this together and thinking about all these categories and stuff, I realized that being like in too deep in the wrestling world for the past 3 to 4 years, because due to this podcast, that used gear buying is kind of just like a quirky hobby to me now. There's a lot of things on this list I find way more deplorable than buying used gear. And when this podcast started, I was like, there is nothing worse than this. There cannot be anything on earth worse than this hobby. And I was wrong. I've been changed by wrestling. So even though I think in the end, I think they would still squeak it out for me in this one too, but I really think if we were doing all of the voting this year like we did past years, I might have used gear buyers falling out of the second round, which I would have never imagined myself saying in the past, but it just doesn't hold the same power with me anymore. It's not as disgusting as some of this other stuff. The next matchup is AEW Doomsayers versus Shoot Reactors. So AEW Doomsayers are this is the social media. So obviously I know when something happens, in order to be seen for people to interact with you, you have to have some content ready. So I understand making fun of AEW and using it as like a punchline, but sometimes it's just like, come on, man. These guys are doing exactly what all wrestling fans have wished somebody do. For 30 years now, which is some dude who's an actual fan of wrestling that also happens to be a billionaire starting his own wrestling promotion. I don't think chances like this are going to happen too often, so I don't think shit talking it is like really in anybody's best of interest, and it's just kind of weird. It's just so, I hate the word toxic, but it's just like very toxic to just be so hateful towards something that doesn't even exist yet that might be the coolest thing on earth. Just wait 2 weeks to make fun of it if it does shitty, but it's just a kind of weird behavior to only have so few things in this kind of fan world that maybe have a positive to them and just automatically shitting on it before it starts. Shoot Reactors is something that exists in pretty much the regular world too. It exists in all levels of YouTube and stuff like that. And honestly, the wrestling version probably like makes me cringe the least. Like dudes who are just like, I'm going to watch this music video and you're going to watch my reactions. That is just beyond, like, that is like the seventh circle of hell to me. That is like incredibly the worst to me, that we as a culture have like sunk so low that you can just be a guy who reacts to something or a lady that reacts to something and people are like, I'm going to watch that and I'm going to give that person millions of views. That is fucking crazy to me. Shoot Reactors for wrestling, though, it's a little different. I don't think it's as widespread. I remember seeing this woman doing it and I meant to put her on the mixtape, but I kind of just like lost track of her. But it's people that just basically like, here's my reaction to Wrestle Kingdom, and they'll film their reaction to like Okada coming out, and they're just like weeping in their hands, and it's just like, get it together. Like, what is, have some, grow a spine. What are you crying about? Like, that is, I don't know how, again, we probably have new listeners for the show. A person crying on television, especially a man, I am sorry if that's like, I don't know, sexist or something, but seeing a man cry on television is probably I don't laugh any harder than when I see that happen. Because I'm just like, man, there is a person with a camera in your face and you cannot hold back tears for 5 minutes. Like, get it together. So this kind of wave of people like getting so emotional over wrestling is like, damn, man, like you need to settle down. It's like getting beyond over my head. Like I can't imagine I don't know. Imagine somebody doing this to like fucking like a Ric Flair Harley race match, like 30 years ago. If like the time, like as it was happening, some dude just like chewing tobacco and like weeping in his hands when Harley race pins Ric Flair. Like I just don't see it happening. Sorry if that makes me an old curmudgeon, but it's just a weird trend. Al found this video of this man weeping over Goldust quitting or like leaving, WWE. He's like 56, man. Like, he should be retired by now. What are you weeping about? It's fucking Goldust. And I know it's just to get clicks. It's just a weird way to get clicks. It's very unsettling to me. I don't think AEW doomsaying is necessarily that harmful. I just think people need to get better joke material if they want to tell jokes. So yeah, shoot reactors all the way for me. Again, if we were doing this the whole way through, voting all the way through, shoot reactors might make the finals for me.
Yeah, this is stemmed from a video that I saw about this guy thanking Goldust, for getting him into wrestling, and then he just starts bawling. And I was like, man, this has to be like one of the most like disingenuous things I've ever seen. I know like you can look at stats and see how many people care through likes, but like I had said initially, I'm looking at this through like the view of what if someone I know that I work with sees this. I would probably leave the country. So to me, shoot reactors in a fucking landslide. This might go far, actually, now that we've explained it. Next up is Crowd Comedians versus Replica Champions. Crowd Comedians, pretty strong reaction. A lot of people filled out their brackets on Instagram. I'll fucking say it right now. If you like called a good bracket, if you have the best bracket for someone that's filled one out, I'll send you something. Let me know. Where am I at here? Crowd comedians. So essentially it's that bozo in the crowd that has these one-liners for every single thing, and he might like elicit one laugh and then he just keeps it going for 3 or 4 hours. And we've all seen it. It's pretty annoying. Versus Replica Champions. This is a step up from the Replica title holders, which I feel never really like advanced at all. So this is now the evolution where someone is strutting around whatever wrestling event you're attending and shoot thinking that he's the WCW US champion. We've all seen that guy. For me, yeah, I'd probably go crowd comedians. You're like ruining everyone's time. Replica champions, you're strutting for no reason. But at the end of the day, you should probably cool out if you're not funny.
Yeah, this is definitely a tough matchup. I would just want to reiterate with the crowd comedians thing, because I think when a lot of people saw the brackets, they were like, "Oh, that's me." Trust me, it's probably not you. If you're just saying like one thing during the show that you just feel, I don't know, like it's really coming from your heart, that's fine. That is fine. That if you're just screaming out things every once in a while, I don't expect everybody to sit on their hands and be quiet, but it's the people who, not only tell a joke that falls flat, but then repeat it over and over again as if maybe no one heard it and that's why it fell flat. A good example would be, up until recently, Trevor Lee would always be at AAW, and so would Kimberly. And there's a couple people. There's a song, like I think it's like an old alt rock song or something that goes like Beverly Hills, that's where I wanna be.
Yeah, Weezer.
Was it Weezer? Oh yeah, it's that Weezer song. Yeah. And there was a couple guys that did that for Kimberly. Replacing Beverly with Kimberly or Trevor Lee, and no traction. Just doing it over and over again. Over and over and over and over and over again. No traction at all. And it's just like how dense in your fucking shitty brain are you where after like the second time you're just like, well, it didn't really work. I can't imagine not having that switch in my brain. Like, it must be so, I don't know, it must be so freeing to just be like, do whatever you want. But people like that probably could just drop their pants and shit right in the street and like not even think about it. Just like it's fucking a daily behavior for them to just shit right in the street, because to have just like that switch just missing from your brain is something else. Replica Champions, again, another thing that's hard in me about being this deeply into wrestling is that enough people have convinced me that collecting replica title belts isn't the worst thing on earth. I still think it's pretty laughable, but I understand a lot of people have, talked to me about it, and I understand if for whatever reason you want to collect these things, but there is no rationalizing with me that carrying them around in public is cool at all. Although I will say, when me and Welf were at MLW, some dude had I think it was a Lucha Underground belt, and it was like custom made or something, and Welf got a picture with it. So I guess maybe if, you have some kind of special belt, then maybe it's okay. I don't know. Either way, I think crowd comedians are something that everybody on earth hates, except for the people telling the shitty jokes. And replica champions, unfortunately, doesn't bother as many people, I don't think. So I'm gonna go with crowd comedians. Another thing that I think has a good chance of wrapping it up and winning the whole thing. The next matchup is Deathmatch Goons versus male Joshi experts. Deathmatch Ghouls. So this is another thing that some people took umbrage to because we all like death matches, but I think a lot of people don't realize that liking death matches, it's definitely a very bizarre thing outside of wrestling. It would be very hard for me to explain to someone that never saw wrestling before that not only do I watch it, but I watch people cut each other up with with like light tubes and scissors and stuff. I live with that because my girlfriend is one of those people that I had to explain this to, and she still doesn't understand it, and she's not down with it at all, and it's very shameful when I have to leave to be like, going to the death matches now. So don't fucking tell me this doesn't belong on the list or whatever, because it is a very shameful, weird thing when you're not involved in wrestling. Male Joshi experts, however, is, I don't know, this was kind of like an amalgamation of a bunch of stuff for me, but again, it's just, there's a lot of people out there that seem to like really want to, I don't know what the right word is. It's like they really want to analyze and overanalyze Japanese women's wrestling. And, again, like they want the scoops, they want the journalism. They don't want to admit that they want to masturbate to the wrestling. And that's basically what bothers me, is like being this stern, serious, gatekeeper of Japanese women's wrestling, but just leaving out the part where it kind of just gives you a boner. And it's like some repression working in there where, this kind of brought to my attention, not to name names, but there's a person, I'm going to skip this. I can't, maybe in the olden days I would call people out like this, but I don't know. There's a lot.
Patreon level episode,
yeah.
For sure.
There's like a lot of things out there where it would just be way easier for me to take you seriously if you just said, listen, man, I like wrestling. Wrestling's cool. I also like sex, and I like looking at boobs and butts. And I like those two things together. Very simple. It gets a lot off your chest real quick. Just because you like sex and you like tits and stuff like that doesn't mean you like wrestling any less, and vice versa. You can like them both at the same time. You could smoke weed and drink beer at the same time. You can like both those things. It's the same thing. You can like sexy stuff, and you can like athleticism at the same fucking time. And we are living, as Alice said multiple times, in the era of athleticism. It doesn't get more athletic than it is right now as far as women's wrestling goes. So suppressing your feelings like that is weird, and acting like all high and mighty about it is even weirder. So I'm gonna give it to the Joshi experts just by an inch. But what do you think, Al?
Yeah, I feel like every tournament needs like a 16 seed. So Deathmatch Ghouls, like, I don't think it's that shameful. Whatever. You like fucking Jimmy Lloyd getting scissors stuck in his chest. That's fucking fine. However, the dudes on Twitter that are just like, Io Shirai's such a good storyteller! And we all like really know what they mean. It's like, dude, you can say she has pretty sweet thighs, man. It's cool. You don't gotta fucking hide it, man. It's totally okay. Yeah, for me, Joshi experts, you're advancing, at least for my opinion. The next matchup is vintage merch sellers versus horny social media. Vintage merch sellers, we've all seen it. If you have Instagram, it's those people that are bouncing Rikishi t-shirts for $200. Or just like you have like this very sickening addiction to like buying old people's garbage. Example, me. The other week I had found a Brian Pillman t-shirt, WCW era, and I was like, I want to rock this. It's a white t-shirt. And so I got it out of the package, and I was looking at it, and I was like, yep, those are stains on the neck. Those are stains on the armpit. But I'm gonna tough through it, and I'm gonna try to watch this thing. And for what? Because I want to rep Brian Pillman? I don't know, man. It was a very shameful feeling that overcame me that day. And so this is why I personally had ensured that this had a slot in the tournament. Horny social media. These are people that run accounts about Alexa Bliss's butt. To me, that's like a next level of perversion. It's one thing to enjoy Alexa Bliss's butt. It's another thing to like enjoy other people enjoying Alexa Bliss's butt. And so, like, for you to hang your hat on having 20,000 followers because you're taking screen caps, you're taking GIFs of ladies' cans. Like I had said, if a friend of mine found out that I was buying old Stone Cold t-shirts, I don't think they'd bat an eye. If they had found out that I was running the Premier Bailey account for her legs or something, I might not have that friend anymore. So I think horny social media is taking it here.
Yeah. So on the vintage merch thing, that is the thing. I buy some vintage shirts here and there, but something I never really share with anybody is I very rarely buy anything that's been worn. I find it kind of disgusting. Yeah. I understand like there's some things you can't find in that condition. So you got to go through it, but yeah. So I am more into selling it, like, 'cause you're just selling old worn clothes, so whatever. But wearing it is kind of, I don't know. I know a lot of people don't have hang-ups about that and could shop at the Goodwill all day and it doesn't bother them, but I'm kind of weird about that. But overall it's not bad. I do think a lot of people who do sell it, like the markup is insane. And that's not going to last forever, so you better make your money now, because like it's just bad business overall. The horny social media, somebody named Wrestle Spencer on Twitter gave me this idea, and I can't believe it took this long to make it to the list. But I usually give these accounts kind of the benefit of the doubt, and just assume it's like a 13-year-old boy who's like, oh man, I just really like Alexa Bliss's ass. I'm going to make a whole Twitter about it. Because once you get into like, over the age of 20 and you're doing this, then you're starting to get into real weird territory. And like Al said, there's a lot of ways you can judge these matchups. You can do by, explaining to somebody at work, or just like the overall impact on the world they have. But explaining this to anybody outside of being a teenager and being like, oh yeah, I run this account and I post nip slips of WWE women wrestlers, is that is like instant divorce. That is instant breakup. There's like no way of explaining that to anybody ever. And so if you are that age and you do this stuff, this is like reprehensible. I think this is like one of the worst things you could do. I've been in the social media world before, doing various social media jobs. I used to have a job running a website that was like, or a Twitter account that was like, hot tattooed babes or something like that. And it is a soul-crushing world to be on that other end of the person like posting these photos. Let me tell you, like, it's cool looking at boobs, but like seeing the people who are looking at this stuff is it'll open your eyes, that's for sure. So being on that end, I could completely relate to like what kind of insane horn dog you would have to be to want to do this. And you're a disgusting person. So horny social media all day for me on this one. Next up is safety officers versus airport stalkers. So, safety officers is another new one. This is kind of grown in the past couple of years of people out there really concerned about the health of wrestlers, and saying that we kind of sound like assholes, I guess, to, be like, oh, people shouldn't care, because people should care, I guess, but there's a limit where you should care, where you should assume that since this is their job for a living, that they probably know what's best for them. And like your training at Jiffy Lube probably does not have anything to like, no cross training involved with wrestling. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not a doctor. There's been kind of, I don't know how serious, but requests for maybe wrestlers should wear helmets. Nope. They shouldn't. They should just end the sport if that's the case. They should just end wrestling if you have to wear helmets. The call for banning moves I could see. I just, and it might be kind of selfish on my end, but I just don't see why you would call for that stuff and ruin your own entertainment if you're not the one doing it. And you should just live in the Wild West while it's good. Like, there was that time, 15 years ago now, where you could just type in a name of the album and it'll be on a blog and you could just download it. Those days are gone, man. They don't exist anymore. There's like a whole world of music out there, like underground music, that's super hard to find or just doesn't exist anymore because that world doesn't exist. And that would be like if you were like rallying against that to stop, or if you were like, stop these fucking blogs posting all of this rare music. What are they thinking? It's the same thing. Airport Stalkers is, of course, the perennial champion. There is nothing in my mind that is worse than Airport Stalker. You are literally stalking somebody. You are sick in the head. You're a terrible person. If you do this, I really don't want you listening to the show. I really think you are the worst fucking awful person and you need actual help in your life if you do this and think there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing worse in the world of wrestling, in the world of any kind of pop culture, than stalking somebody in a fucking airport. It is disgusting. After this, you know, if Airport Stalkers wins this tournament again, we're going to retire it because it's no fun. But, you know, we do have to give light to them. So this is easy Airport Stalkers for me. Deep down, I hope they do get unseated. But I'm realistically, like, shoot speaking, nothing worse. Nothing worse on earth.
Long live the king, Airport Stalkers for me. Mike already went through it. However, I'm trying to figure out when people decided that wrestling was actually, like, unsafe. Like, I know when, like, the burning hammer dropped and, like, the Gonzo bomb happened. Yeah. Everyone was just like, yeah, that's fucking sick, man. That guy could have died. I'm into that. No one ever chimed in. And they were like, well, I don't know, guys. We should probably not do this.
I think for a lot of people, it was when Beyond the Mat came out and they really highlighted Mankind, Mick Foley, or Cactus Jack taking all those chair shots to the head, and people were like, huh, maybe that isn't too good for you. But it was like a slow build from that. It wasn't immediate, like, we need to stop this. But I think that was when people, like, first woke up and they were like, maybe some of this stuff is a little dangerous.
I'm kind of with you on that. With that said, though, like, it just seems like, if anything, like, the most benign shit is, like, the stuff that gets people the most fucked up, right?
Yeah.
Like, D'Lo Brown can't walk anymore because of a... No, D'Lo Brown. Droz can't walk anymore because of a D'Lo Brown power bomb. We're going to ban that. Yeah. Fucking Randy Orton broke his shoulder doing his fucking snake taunt. Can't ban that. I don't know.
Nope.
But yeah, like Mike said, Airport Stalkers, you're the dirt worst. The last seed for the Shade Cup 2019. This is Cancer Truthers versus Wannabe Insiders. So Cancer Truthers popped up, this year, right? When Roman Reigns had announced that he had leukemia. And people had speculated that they were, playing this up. They were faking it because they wanted to get Roman over finally, which is sick. But the sickest thing, I think, were people that were calling for him to disclose what kind of leukemia he had. Like, for what? Like, are you gonna, like, take that information, go on WebMD and fucking crank your dick to it? Like, with photos that you'd seen on the internet, like, of Roman Reigns? I don't understand the end game for wanting to know this kind of, like, really private information. So this was, I think, a lot of people's favorites to win, versus Wannabe Insiders. So, this, I guess, could be best described as people with social media accounts. And they all kind of operate the same. They kind of play that game of, like, I know something you don't know. So they'll tweet something like, wow, I can't believe Alicia Fox. And then, like, there'll be, like, 40 replies of, what did she do? And, like, these guys that run these accounts are just like, can't tell you. And I don't know how you monetize that. I'm an old man, so maybe you're making money off of it. I highly doubt it. But if this is your hobby, it's still pretty weird. With that said, Cancer Truthers, I think, is going to take it home. How do you have it, Mike?
Yeah, this is a very interesting matchup, and I kind of wish these two entries were in different matches because both very unique situations where I've always been bothered by wannabe industry insiders, but it's really ramped up over the past year where I would even put this over used gear buyers at this point because seeing those Instagrams of people that just post like a still picture and they're like, my sources tell me, and it's like, dude, you fucking have a normal job, you don't have any sources. Or like the Twitter accounts that are just like, ringside scoops for you. And it's just some kid. And since it's like a lot of people who follow wrestling aren't the smartest people, so they're just like, oh, well, it's a wrestling news site. And they just follow it, not knowing it's just some 15-year-old kid just repeating shit that he read on some other bullshit website. And it's a very weird hobby for me to have. And using the rule of explaining something to your coworkers or your significant other, I can't imagine explaining this kind of hobby to somebody and just being like, well, I'm not really involved in the industry, but I like it so much that I find news and I don't get paid for it, and then I report it on my Instagram or Twitter. It's just really bothersome for me for the past year or something.
Although we did discover, though, that, like, it is kind of like a weird, like, niche industry where people will pay talent for news. And
yeah, that's true.
That kind of fucked me up a little bit.
Yeah, it is kind of like a weird fetish almost to be like, I need to know the scoops and share these as if I am, I don't know, I'm the fucking Mean Gene Hotline or something. But you're not getting paid any money. And it's just kind of a just very bizarre hobby. Cancer Truthers is kind of a one and done thing. I think a lot of people have it winning this bracket or this tournament, and rightfully so. This is very bad. At the same time, I doubt Cancer Truthers is gonna make it into the Shame Cup 2020 because it's gonna not exist anymore. So it's kind of just how you personally want to vote. If you want to vote for something that had like a deep impact this year and probably won't exist next year, then Cancer Truthers. If you want something that's going to be a long-lasting, terrible problem and very bizarre, you're going to have to go with Wannabe Insiders. And I think any other matchup in this whole entire thing, besides maybe Airport Stalkers, I'd have Wannabe Insiders winning. But just because it's just a hot topic, I'm going to have to go with Cancer Truthers on this too.
It's like the fucking Carmelo Anthony Syracuse of this tournament for sure.
Yeah.
Fucking, I'm going to the league right now, man. That's it. Anyway.
So that was it. That's our Shame Cup preview. Like I said, just Monday after this episode drops, you can start seeing the Twitter polls pop up. Just search our Twitter, VRTL Pros. I think I'm going to leave each round up for a couple days. I worked it out in my head. I did the math, so it works out perfectly, but I think they'll each be up for a couple days, so you'll have a couple days to vote. But Al, before we go, is there anybody sticking out? Who do you think is going to take it all home this year?
I think it's going to be Cancer Truthers without question. It's so offensive.
I think it's going to be a Cancer Truthers Crowd Comedians final. I don't even think Airport Stalkers makes the final this year. I think a lot of people are personally affected by Crowd Comedians, and they have that sticking in their mind. I think Airport Stalkers, albeit the most disgusting thing on this list, a lot of people aren't bothered by it because they aren't getting stalked in an airport, but a lot of people are bothered by Crowd Comedians. And anything with cancer and being weird about it is just like dirt worst, even worse than Airport Stalkers. So I think those are two strong contenders, so I think we're going to see an all-new finals this year.
You have any dark horses?
I would like to see Shoot Reactors make it far, but I don't know if everybody else out there has the same hatred we have for them.
I would love to see horny social media. Maybe not go all the way, but I'd love to see like a really, really close vote off or something.
Yeah, I think if we had that in the first or second one, it would have had a chance to make it to the finals. But there's so many deplorable things on this list at this point that it's probably the toughest one yet, where it's real tough to pick a winner. And hopefully all of the listeners and followers out there do a good job of picking a winner.
I'm excited, man. Very good field this year.
Yeah.
Up next, the world famous mixtape with Steven Regal, Gran Hamada, Jake Lee, and Great Muda, his origin story. Please stay tuned. with episode 86 of that World Champion Sound Virtual Pros podcast. The last segment of the night is the Virtual Pros mixtape segment. For the new listeners, you can find this mixtape on YouTube. Just type in Virtual Pros mixtape. It'll pop right up. I think we're now at 276 clips, all handpicked by your boys at Virtual Pros. So please subscribe and peep that if you haven't already. The first match of the night is a mic pick, actually.
Yep. The first match is not a match. It's actually a mini-movie called Great Muta, Birth of the Demon.
Damn.
I did not know this existed up until a couple of weeks ago. I always wondered if there was something out there that was like this, and I'm glad I was validated. I do not know any real backstory to this video. I know it's from the 90s. Al, did you know anything about this video?
I did. I have a flyer of it, actually, for some weird reason.
So I assumed it was something that was tacked on to like maybe a best of or a commercial tape. Am I correct? Or is this something that stood alone? Do you know?
I think it's its own entity, actually.
Okay. So they released this in the 90s. I wouldn't say it's an origin story of the Great Muta, but I guess you could say it fleshes out the character a little more. And I can take notes on wrestling. And even though I did a movie podcast for 8 years and reviewed movies, I have a real hard time taking notes when it comes to movies for some reason. So I don't have like a whole bunch to say about this outside of like summarizing it. This is a silent film not silent. It's a no dialogue film. This music throughout. It's kind of this weird orchestral, kind of cheap sounding, 90s orchestral music. Kind of like something that would fit in like a live action version of Legend of Zelda or something like that. But it works really well. The soundtrack to this, the score, while it's not something that I think you could press on vinyl and sell as a collector's copy, I think it works really well within the video. And the video is basically Great Muta, I guess you would say, being born, and this is all played by the actual Great Muta. This isn't some actor they found. This is Kaiji Muto himself as Great Muta. And so it's kind of in 4 acts. He's, in the beginning, he's born from like a cave or something. He's just some goo in a cave. And he comes out and he wanders around a little while. The second act is him fighting the monster. It's Great Muta versus the monster. And he gets his ass whooped by the monster. And then the third act is him becoming the devil or like a demon. And, then he's like the Great Muta still, but he has like a devil face and it's pretty sweet. And then the fourth act is him going back and kicking that monster's ass. And then it ends. It's very trippy. It's very much just 420 friendly. Just take a bong hit and sit back and enjoy this trippy ass shit. There's a scene where Great Muta's face paint keeps changing to all the different colors. There's that monster mask is I'm sure they tried it. I'm sure they tried to work out the logistics and it didn't work, but I don't know how he never wrestled. Not the monster mask, the devil mask. I don't know how he never tried to wrestle in that devil mask because that is fucking sweet. Somebody needs to make 7 or 9 shirts of that, of the Great Muta as the devil mask guy, because that fucking is such a sweet shirt. Sweet mask. Yeah, outside of that, it's definitely worth your time. At the end, it has the credits roll, and it says cast the Great Muta, and it made me think, but what about that monster? But maybe he played the monster too. I don't know. I just assumed the monster was a different guy. But maybe he played both roles of the monster and the Great Muta. I just think they forgot to give the monster credit. So that man is out there working uncredited, and that's very sad. Yeah, if you never saw this before, and if you're not even a wrestling fan, if you're just a fan of bizarre film, definitely check this out. This is a great piece of film. I'm so glad I watched this. I just unfortunately don't have any, like, vibrant things to say about it, but it is definitely something that I'm very glad I saw and would fit on anybody's 420 weed compilation.
Yeah, that part where like they had his face like pulsating, like this was made in the 90s, but I don't know how they pulled that off. It was incredible. But yeah, this movie rather, it's split up into 3 sections. There's the birth of Muta, there's Muta versus monster, and then there's the revenge of Muta. If you had to pick one of your favorite sections, or what was your favorite section, what would you go with?
Oh, definitely the devil transformation. That was fucking sweet.
Birth was cool, man. He was all goopy and shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just me. There was a part in the movie where Muta fights the monster, And I do find it pretty funny that Muda's first instinct when confronting this monster is to go for a collar and elbow tie-up. Man, that fucking Keiji Muto, he was born to wrestle, man, it appears. With that said, I thought the fight choreography was a little whack. I didn't see any leg whips. I didn't see any elbow drops. No moonsaults. So what the fuck, right? Yeah, in sum, it's an origin story, but I still don't have the answer as to why the Great Muta wanted to fuck Sting up so bad. So this was just okay. Next up is... The fuck did I pick? Jesus Christ.
Steve Regal.
Dick Togo versus Steven Regal? For some reason I thought you picked it. Very weird. Yeah, I bet Steven Regal. This was from Shotgun Saturday Night. I didn't get the year. I'm assuming 1998. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so Steven Regal, he's in a hard hat and a flannel. And I'm pretty sure he was really pumped to, like, you know, he was a lord in WCW, and, like, now he's, like, 7 levels down in, like, the medieval social class in the WWF. That kind of sucked, I'm guessing, for him. In the name card on Shotgun Saturday Night, his subtitle, Steven Regal, is, doesn't like quiche. Do you like quiche, Mike?
I don't prefer it. I would eat it, though. Not a huge fan, though.
Same thing. If I saw it on the menu, I'd probably overlook it, but if someone made me a plate, I'd probably scarf it down. So, like, I feel like I used to know this factoid, but Dick Togo, he has a barbed wire tattoo going across his bicep. And I can't help but think it was because he was such a huge fan of the three-way dance at Barely Legal. That's my guess. But yeah, it was pretty weird to see heel versus heel, admittedly, since it's not something that the WWF was known for, I'm assuming at the time. It was kind of tedious to watch Steven Regal do like fucking like bow and arrows for 5 minutes on Dick Togo's lower back. I could do without this.
So yeah, this was in the middle of Steven Regal's Man's Man gimmick. I don't remember exactly what happened, but something happened where he came in as normal William Regal, and either he started doing drugs or he did drugs because of this gimmick. But anyways, he was quickly gone, or I shouldn't say drugs, I think he became an alcoholic or something, but he was quickly gone after this Man's Man gimmick. And it's one of those things that's referenced as like a funny, hilarious thing. If you're a younger person or just a person who missed this era of wrestling, definitely go back and watch the whole Man's Man thing, because it's so fucking bad that there's no other explanation than this was done on purpose to just like punish somebody. It's the song is horrible, the get up is horrible. Jim Ross makes fun of it twice, and not makes fun of it in, oh, he's a bad guy, so I'm gonna make fun of him way. Or not Jim Ross, Jim Cornette. He makes fun of it like, oh man, this idea is so bad, and he's just like openly talking about how bad this whole gimmick is. And that should I don't know, it's so crazy that WWE is like a company like that, where they will do horrible things to human beings just because they have some like petty grudge. It's pretty amazing. Steven Regal is gigantic compared to Dick Togo. He dwarfs him, and it's not like Dick Togo's like average size, but he's a thick boy, I guess you would say. And it's just weird to see him kind of dwarfed by Steven Regal, who you never really in your head imagine as this big man, but he does appear big here. It's very hard to focus on wrestling when the commentators are talking about 17 different things in rapid succession. Like, they're talking about everything about this match. They're basically going over every single happening in WWF at this very moment, and maybe adding like, oh, what a maneuver every once in a while about the match. Yeah. And it's crazy that this has been kind of WWF's MO for the past 20 years, is doing this. And then people wonder why Raw is so bad. It's like, maybe just not talk about other stuff, because it's impossible to focus on kind of bland, mediocre wrestling if there's no one making you focus on it. It's just shitty. And this is why Raw is terrible and no one watches it. And it's just like, it's such an easy thing to not do, but they do it. Outside of that, I don't know if this is like a part of his repertoire, and I just don't remember it, but I mean, they make note of it as if it's a new thing at this point, but Steve Regal does a cool finishing move that's kind of like I don't even know. It's like a leg clutch backdrop. Like, I don't know what the proper term for it is because I don't know the names of normal moves. It's really cool, but also it looks like if they were naked, it would be like a sex thing too. So it has like, it's double cool basically. It's a cool hard hitting move and also a cool sex move. So, I don't know the name of this. I don't know if this move is in Fire Pro or anything, but I would give this as a finisher to one of my guys, I think. So that was pretty cool. Outside of that, I would avoid this unless you have never seen the Steven Regal Man's Man thing, because it's pretty good. My last match of the night is a Michinoku Pro 6-man tag from 1997, May 5th, actually. It'll be the anniversary of this match, 22-year anniversary. Damn. In a couple days. This is Great Sasuke, Gran Hamada, and Gran Naniwa versus Dick Togo again. This is a little younger Dick Togo by a year. Shofunaki and Hanzo, was it Nishimura? I didn't write it down.
Nakajima,
that's it. Hanzo Nakajima. I picked this match because Al posted some t-shirt the other day that Hanzo Nakajima's on. And I was like, man, I don't remember that guy at all. And he was even in the J-Cup, and I don't have any recollection of him at all. And so I was like, maybe let me find a match on the old YouTube, and I'll put it on the mixtape. And it's either this or his J-Cup match against Chris Jericho. I think those are like his only matches on YouTube. So it's not like I'm probably the only person in the world who doesn't remember this guy. So I don't feel too bad. Outside of that, this is not like, spoiler alert, this is a great match, but it's nothing that's, you need to see in your life or anything like that. But I just wanted to figure out, maybe I'm missing out on this guy's storied career. I am not. But anyways, so this match, the bell rings, and Sasuke really does not like this Hanzo guy. He immediately grabs him, has like the deathmatch grab of like dragging somebody around the arena, and basically drags him about 100 feet to the outside, to the front entrance, drags him out to the front, and then like kind of throws him into this weak ass looking tree. And it's really funny because I imagine that Sasuke like had this idea in his head that there was going to be something super cool out there to throw this guy into, but there wasn't. It was just like an empty area and then this weak tree that wouldn't hurt no matter what you did with it. And then Sasuke has to go all the way back in the building and go back to the ring, and then they brawl a little more, and then Hanzo just like finds his way back into the match unscathed and unhurt by this weak tree. And it's a lot of setup for really nothing. This match really made me realize why I kind of do not like tag team wrestling anymore. And it's because I watched a lot of this growing up. Well, not when I was 8, but, when I was tape trading and stuff. And I think Michinoku Pro and Toryumon and stuff like that has really spoiled me to this style of like, where every guy is kind of different. Like no one in this match looks the same. Like a couple guys have masks and a couple guys have cool thick heads of hair, but they're not like, they don't really look the same. They all look kind of mismatched, but they're guys who are basically, it's not even like you're focusing on one wrestler in this match or even one team. It's like you're focusing on the whole entire act basically. And that's what Michinoku Pro was. It's kind of like a big act. It's not like an individual wrestler or anything. So it's like these guys know everything the other guy is going to do and when they're going to do it. So they're just like, everything's so well choreographed. And I think like NXT gets it every once in a while, especially like when they did those DIY and Revival matches. It's like those guys had forever to practice them, and they're just like these perfect tag team matches. So every once in a while you get that vibe still, but I think back in the 90s when you had these small promotions that just basically had dudes wrestle each other across their country like over and over again, it makes for like really good tag team wrestling. And I think that's why tag team wrestling now lacks a little, because you don't really have that kind of cohesiveness outside of a few teams. Like obviously Lucha Brothers are pretty good tag team because they're brothers and they fucking wrestle every day probably at this point and stuff like that. But it's, a lot of these tag teams are wrestling like a few times a month or something. And it's just not as cohesive as old Michinoku Pro. Hanzo still does wrestle. I checked him out. He still does those spot shows of like real sad old man wrestling. So that means this guy has had a not notable career for a few decades now, and that's kind of depressing when you think about it. That a guy exists, and he's just kind of a guy, and he's been kind of a guy for over 20 years. It's real sad. Brings a tear to my eye. If I had a camera in front of me, I would shoot my reaction and probably cry a little on camera, but I don't have it. Dick Togo has very thick hair in this match. Very thick hair. Nice full set of hair. And it would only be, months later until he went to WWF with a shaved head. Al, do you have any idea what happened? It doesn't look like he's balding hair. So you think this guy with this nice full head of thick hair was just like, I'm going to shave it now?
It's tragic, dude. It's fucking tragic. It's like on the same wave as Ishii, for sure. Like, they had some hair.
Yeah.
And he did it on purpose.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's just pretty... I mean, honestly, he looks a lot tougher with a bald head. I'll give him that, but it's still a lot to give up. Bahu has helped me out leagues. I don't know if he's a Michinoku Pro expert, too, but he helped me out with my Glover question last episode. But if anybody out there, Bahu or anybody else, was there some kind of hair match where Dick Togo lost his hair? I don't know. I don't think there is, but I would like to know if there's some kind of backstory to him losing his hair. Finally, not to get overlooked, Gran Hamada's hair at this point is also spectacular. He has that perm mullet, and man, I think if there was anybody wrote in with what wrestler hairstyle would you want to have, it's this one. I would want Gran Hamada's hair for sure. It's fucking amazing. Outside of that, it's a pretty good match. I wouldn't say you should go out of your way to see it, but it's a fun watch if you're bored, basically. What do you think, Al?
You have Gran Hamada as the number one permed Asian of all time?
I think so.
Man, Tenru, man. Yeah, my first note was, I can't believe that this hit me, or it didn't hit me sooner, but, like, where the fuck did Grand Aniwa, rest in peace, buy these giant crab legs for his arms? Like, they're so, like, ridiculously detailed, so, like, it makes me think they have, like, a custom job or something. It looks really expensive. Hanzo Nakajima, he definitely gets lost to the M-Pro sauce. Dude, I didn't know that Jerry Lynn was an M-Pro, did you?
Yeah, I think, wasn't he just like in one mask tournament or something like that?
Yeah, he was Mr. JL.
Yeah.
Fuck? It's crazy. Yeah. Damn, okay. Gotta find that. So I'm glad he's here, though. I'm a fan of him, though, because it looks like he, too, cannot connect his mustache like me. So I can relate to this dude. He looks like a fucking carp in this match, which is pretty great. In the middle of the match, Nakajima, he does a baseball slide into Sasuke, and Sasuke literally goes like 40 feet back, which makes me think this might be the first shoot baseball slide in wrestling, and I cannot believe that Nakajima would go into business for himself here. So fuck that guy.
He was fucking pissed about that walk back to the goddamn ring. It was like 150 feet away.
That guy ran so fast to baseball sliding, man. It was insane. I'm surprised that Sasuke didn't walk away with like a broken rib cage. Spotted outside the ring as the second is Masato Yakashiji. He has an ECW tee on. And it's a shame that Yakashiji's most memorable look will just be him dressed up as Peter Pan at Barely Legal. Like, in other photos, like, he's wearing, like, Game of Death shit. He has a fucking sombrero on in this cartoon shirt I have. But no, man, he's just gonna be known as, like, the Power Ranger guy. It's a fucking shame. But yeah, as always, Michinoku Pro's signature is having these, like, really wild finishing stretches. And this is no different. But it's kind of in the middle of the pack, at least for Michinoku Pro 6-man standards. However, this does make me think that a prime Dick Togo versus a current day Tomohiro Ishii, that would be the best match of all time, no doubt about it. Hair versus hair, if that was on the line, they could have a fucking third day of Wrestle Kingdom for sure. I would go to that, no doubt about it. Last match of the night, Jake Lee versus Naoya Nomura, All Japan Pro Wrestling, 4/28/2019. So obviously this is from this year's Champions Carnival. So this match is deciding the winner of the B block. And I think I'm going to make this a yearly thing where I throw one of these Champion Carnival matches onto the mixtape as they're going on. Because I know last year we both watched Shingo Takagi versus Shuji Ishikawa. And I think we were in agreement that that match was really fucking good. I know that this wasn't the best match of the tournament, but, you know, there was no Kento Miyahara matches at the time of the recording, so this is what we're stuck with here. So, I'm not familiar with both of these guys. I've seen Jake Lee's name around, but no idea who Naoya is. And so when he comes out, I was like, this might be my guy because he looks so fucking sleepy. And for someone that's hitting their mid-30s this year, like, that's an energy I can relate to. He looks like he woke up from a nap. And that's the backstory I'm going with in my head because I'm guessing he wrestled Suwama for like 20 minutes, but I don't care about that. So I kind of figured this out, like, on an analogy tip. So, like, imagine yourself, Mike. You're on the couch on a Saturday, mid-afternoon. You're just kind of waiting for the evening to come around for your real plans. And for whatever reason, it's on ESPN2 on your TV. And there's like a college basketball game going on. But you're too lazy to change the channel. And you're like, whatever. I'm just going to watch this game between Old Dominion and Northern Kentucky, whoever. And like 5 minutes go by and you're like, oh, okay. That guy made a decent drive to the hoop. Oh, okay. That guy hit a 3. Oh, they're playing zone defense. I know what that is. This is the entire vibe of every single modern All Japan match that I watch. This is fine. What'd you think?
Kind of the same thing. A little more descriptive in the drabness I have to paint this picture with. But, yeah, first off, I definitely expected Jake Lee to be a white man. There's 2 Asian men came out, and I was like, huh, maybe one of these guys is Jake Lee's manager. And then, no, there's just an Asian man, I assume Japanese, named Jake Lee. And,
yeah.
That's cool. It's like one of those, when that one Brazilian World Cup player just named himself Fred. And it's like, okay, I guess it's like that. He's the Fred of wrestling, I guess. Jake Lee. So this is all, it's not off to a good start because Jake Lee looks like he's afraid to be a wrestler. Like, it doesn't look like he's physically scared to be a wrestler, but it looks like if, somebody was like, we're holding your family hostage and you have to wrestle to save them. Like, he just looks very concerned about wrestling. And that is not a good look. So there's like a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, there's things I like about this match, and then there's things that it's just like a real head scratcher. So things I like the blue ring ropes. The blue ring ropes are like a ring canvas blue. They're all solid blue. They're cool. They have like red turnbuckles. It's a good look. I like the old timey ref. He's counting real slow because he's about to die. He's gonna die any minute because this guy looks like the last time he refed was like 1973. He's very old. Those two things don't really jibe with each other. They're kind of like a modern look with a old timey look. And then there's the drabness of the production that's in there. And these guys, even though they don't physically, they facially don't look the same. They physically do kind of have the same build. And so it's kind of just like a palette swap. Like one guy's wearing all red, the other guy's wearing all blue. And, they kind of have like nondescript moves. And it's just like that combined. So it's just like their look is kind of like early 2000s, and the ring is kind of, like modern, and the ref is from the 70s, and the wrestling style is just kind of again from the 2000s. It's just like it's all over the place. The production's like from the 90s too, or the 80s, and it's just like visually like it's just a mess, and it's kind of unappealing. It's hard to, for me at least, to focus on this because something's got to change. There's got to be something more uniform. I am fine if All Japan wants to be like the old timey promotion and wants the old timey ref. But your guys got to look old timey too. They got to wear the underpants or something like that, or there's something's got to change. There's some parts there's some pieces of this puzzle that are missing basically, and I don't think I would ever get into All Japan without those pieces coming together. I guess the best way I summed it up is it seems like these guys, it's like New Japan. The guys start off and they're the black panty wrestlers, and they can only do the Boston Crab. And there's kind of fucking bullshit wrestlers. And then they hit the stage where they go on their excursion or whatever, and they kind of have a gimmick, but it's kind of shitty. And then they become Jay White, the Switchblade, after a while. And then they have like a full-on gimmick. It seems like these All Japan wrestlers, every single time I see them, they're just kind of in that middle stage still, where they kind of have a gimmick, but it's bullshit. And it's like, it's not fun to watch. These guys, I couldn't recognize them if you just like stuck them right in front of me. The wrestling they do is fine, but it's not anything that really sticks out. These guys have no character outside of being a Japanese wrestler. And it's just like, it's a lot of stuff that doesn't mix well with me. Like I said, there might be something to this All Japan. I just think they need to make some kind of like aesthetic changes for me to ever get into it. Lastly, right in the beginning of the match, they kind of tumble outside of the ring, and Nomura rolls like near the front row, and there's a nice solid shot of somebody with their foot outside of their sandal. So Nomura's head is right near to somebody's gross, fat, disgusting bare foot, and that's like, you know, probably not a gaijin, but probably as disgusting and deplorable to me as doing chants. Also, a lot of chants. A lot of people doing chants in this match, and the crowd was hot. Maybe they should shut up. Probably all gaijin. I don't know. But there was a lot of chants happening, and I did like that part too, because the crowd was pretty hot for this. But yeah, it just seems like All Japan is just like a mix of shit that just doesn't like come together in my head. So yeah.
I want to like it, man. I'm not actively trying to hate wrestling, so if you have some like real suggestions, please hit me up. I know this wasn't the best match out of the tournament, but I don't know, man. Yeah, for me it's just like there is so much wrestling you could watch now that it has to have like some kind of sensationalism to it. So your wrestler guys have to have some kind of character to them outside of being just kind of like a wrestling man, I think. That was episode 86 of That World Champion Sound. Hit us on Instagram and Twitter at VRTL Pros. Hit us on SoundCloud. Hit us on iTunes. Hit us on Spotify. Peep us on YouTube. And if you want to participate, email us at virtualpros64@gmail.com. A pretty good episode, Mike. Any last words?
Yeah, make sure a few days voting is going to start for the Shame Cup. Sign up for Twitter, VRTL Pros. Get your friends to sign up. Start some burner accounts to follow us and stuff the ballot box. Do whatever you need. We need this to be successful, so we need as much votes as possible. VRTL Pros on Twitter.
I'm gonna find some like voter dye T-shirts from when Diddy made them, and then Virtual Pros logo on the back. That'd be hot. See you guys in 2 weeks.